Hey, let's talk a little bit about Chapter 20 and some Martians. So, at the end of Chapter 19, we're at the beginning of the 19th century, and astronomers believe that there's life on all the planets in the solar system, maybe life on the moon, maybe life on the sun. Thomas Dick's got 22 trillion intelligent beings that he estimates are in the solar system, so on and so forth. So, but all that's based on just assumptions and presuming that the Earth can't be the only inhabited planet in the solar system. So, how would you actually go and get evidence of that? Evidence of whether or not there is life on other worlds in the solar system? And the answer to that is basically with a telescope. You need better telescopes. So as telescopes get better, astronomers begin seeing that to some extent, for example, Giovanni Battista Riccioli was right. There's nobody living on the moon. You look at the moon with a good telescope, and you quickly can see that there's pretty much not much evidence of any atmosphere. There's no snow on the mountains in the moon. The sort of darker, flat-looking, smooth-looking areas that with a small telescope you might think were oceans or water or lakes of some sort. You see with a better telescope that there's craters in them. That in fact, they're flat, rocky areas. So the moon doesn't look like a good place for life. The sun, it's kind of hot. There's various reasons you eventually figure out that the sun is not a really good place for life to be. So that leaves the other planets, and of those planets, perhaps the place that looks most Earth-like is Mars. Mars has an atmosphere. Mars has polar caps like Earth has. On Earth, for example, the polar ice cap at the North Pole, when we're in winter it gets bigger, and when we're in summer it shrinks. Well, and Mars has the same thing. Mars has a polar ice cap at the North Pole. It gets bigger in the Martian summer. It shrinks in the Martian winter. Mars has a summer and a winter like Earth does. Mars has a south polar cap like Earth does. So there's a variety of reasons to think that, well, Mars might be kind of Earth-like. It shows some features on it. Venus is like covered with clouds. It's not hard to see much on it. So that might be a good place to look for life. And as telescopes got better, that's what people did. And at some point, when telescopes were getting pretty good, various astronomers began reporting seeing fine, faint lines on the surface of Mars. These were not something that you could just look at with a telescope. Giovanni Schiaparelli or Percival Lowell, but both astronomers who saw these lines said, "Here, come look through this telescope and look at Mars." You wouldn't probably see those lines. You would probably just see some basic features. But with patience, these faint, fine lines would appear just for a moment, and astronomers began thinking, okay, what are these things? And Lowell and Schiaparelli in particular advocated that they were canals on Mars, artificial structures, large canals, planet-wide canals, a planetary irrigation system which was being flooded from water from the melting polar caps, used to irrigate the planet. And in order to have a planet-wide system of canals, you had to have a planet-wide government, probably a very sort of centrally run government, so on and so forth. So Lowell succeeded in photographing some of these canals, and these were taken as proof of intelligent life on Mars. All right, articles in the newspaper reported on how proof had been discovered of life on another world, and hey, since communication technology was improving, soon we would probably be able to actually communicate directly with the Martians. So it's around this same time that H.G. Wells wrote War of the Worlds, and in doing so had a huge impact on our culture today. He ended up giving Hollywood the material that would get recycled into any number of blockbuster movies. So the idea was he took this idea of Mars as a sort of dry, dying planet with a very advanced civilization on it, and added to it that those advanced creatures had decided that they were going to come take Earth, okay, and so they're going to invade the Earth and take over the Earth. And of course, invading aliens has been a staple of our culture for quite some time now. Now, not all scientists were sold on the idea of life on Mars. In fact, one particularly vocal opponent to the idea of life on Mars was Alfred Russel Wallace, a British scientist. He's also famous. He was one of the co-founders of the theory of evolution, along with Charles Darwin. And Wallace argued that there was no life on Mars, no intelligent life, and that Mars was basically uninhabitable for any kind of more advanced life. What Wallace said is that no planets are like the Earth. No planets are suitable for life. He went through basic physics, and he said that Mercury is too close to the sun. It's too hot. It's too small. It doesn't have enough gravity to hold on to an atmosphere and hold on to water. Venus is also too close to the sun, and it also rotates very slowly, so that one side of Venus, he said, would be too hot and would roast, while the other would be too cold. Mars, too small to hold on to water in a sufficient quantity, and to have too thin of an atmosphere. It'd be too cold. It's too far away from the sun, so on and so forth. Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, all these big planets that are out beyond Mars, they are big, they're massive, but they're actually not that massive in comparison to their size. Their density is much lower than Earth, which suggests that they don't have a surface like Earth does. They're just balls of gas. Okay, so you couldn't land on the surface of Jupiter. There's not really a surface. It's just sort of gas that gets thicker as you go down. And basically the same thing holds for Saturn and Uranus and Neptune. Okay, so Wallace argued very forcefully that no other planet in the solar system would be inhabitable. No other planet in the solar system would have any intelligent life on it. And time has shown that Wallace was right, and Lowell and Schiaparelli and all those other people who said that there would be life all over the solar system were wrong. Okay. No, now that we have, we've sent probes to all of the major planets. Some of them have been orbited by probes. We've got much better telescopes. We can look at these things, and there's no sign of any kind of intelligent life anywhere in the solar system at all. No solar system planet is inhabitable. Not only is there no other intelligent life, but there's probably no life at all of any kind in the solar system except on Earth. Now, it is possible that Mars could have some primitive life someplace in a particularly fortuitous spot where the conditions are better on Mars than they are on the average of Mars. There is a moon. There's some moons going around the giant planets. For example, the moon Europa is going around Jupiter. The surface of Europa it looks to be ice, like it kind of looks like the North Polar cap of Earth. And so maybe there's ice with some water under it, and underneath the water, down in the water, you could have life. Maybe. But unless we're really looking to say, hey, there could be intelligent Martian moss, or there could be intelligent European sea worms with a civilization. No, we're not really looking for. We're not really expecting to find any kind of intelligent life in those situations, and it's doubtful that there's reason to believe we may find no life at all, period, in the solar system except for Earth. So Wallace was correct. The Martian canals turned out to be a trick of light, essentially. That shading differences and stuff on the planet Mars will cause these apparent lines. Remember, they're not something you just sit and look at. They were very, very hard to see. You could photograph them if you worked hard at it, but they're not exactly what you call prominent features. And they turned out that they don't actually exist. Okay, they are an illusion of shading differences and things like that. So if you look at a modern Hubble Space Telescope photo of Mars, there's no canals. Okay, so this is the modern view of the solar system. Is essentially the Earth is where the life is, and everywhere else, no.